completely machinima. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something completely machinima.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky Grove, and you are listening or watching to And Now for Something Completely Machinima, a podcast and video about machinima, virtual real-time technologies. I'm here with my pals Phil Rice, Tracy Harwood, and Damien Valentine. We are all hyped up. Hello there. We're all excited and hyped up from our discussion of last week's film. And now we're going to take off with a film chosen by Tracy Harwood. Tracy, do you want to introduce the film to us?
Absolutely. It's called I Made a Self-Aware Robot by Lights Are Off, and it was released last October. It's actually a Blender short rather than machinima per se. But oh my goodness, what an amazing storytelling technique this guy's got. I think I will start by saying he points out at some pain to say that there is no AI in the making of this video at all. And that'll become interesting when I get to my comments a little bit later on. So far as I can tell, Lights Are Off, he's a lone creator. He's got quite a track record of horror-themed content, which has attracted an astonishing audience over the 3 or 4 years that he's been on YouTube.
Wow. Millions.
Yeah, in the millions. This one's up to 4 million, I think, almost. He's also developed and published a game called Zoonomaly, which is a kind of a horror-themed game as well, set in a zoo. So far as I can tell, his name is, but it's very evident the creator doesn't really want to use that name. He prefers to be known by his alias, so we'll use his alias, Lights Are Off. So let's talk about the short. It focuses on the creation of Elba, a conscious and self-aware robot. It's a scientist vlog-style telling, portraying the use of recording devices like CCTV and a mobile phone. It's basically this scientist talking about his experience of making this robot. I have to say, it was so good when I first saw it in portraying the scientist in his computer lab with all those sticky notes everywhere and the lab kind of recording techniques and the lighting and what have you, that when I first saw it, I actually thought it was real. Huh? Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's kind of only after a few minutes of watching it that after having clocked that it wasn't real, but then my immediate thought was, oh my God, can you imagine being in a lab and doing that? Any of us could be doing this kind of stupid stuff in a lab, but it just felt so realistic.
Yeah.
Which kind of put the wind up me a little bit. Anyway, Elba stands for epistemic, even, logic-based engine for recursive reasoning. I know other robots that have got very similar names to this, which is quite fascinating as well. The story is basically the activation sequence for the robot. And you know it's going to get strange when the scientist asks it first off, how are you feeling? As if you would ever do that of a robot. Well, of course, it kind of responds weirdly and then gets very upset about the bits of it that it feels are missing. And then this scientist has this weird kind of mantra that he asks this robot to perform as a kind of control sequence, which includes sort of statements about mind and soul, all of course alluding to the importance of its consciousness. And then there is, the whole kind of thing that's portrayed through it of you are my creator, but you're not going to control me kind of stuff, which I think is really fascinating. I think it's quite a delicious little play on everything we currently find uncanny about robots and the idea of ghosts and machines and such. It's become such a topic of discussion on forums like Reddit, where people are sharing stills and impressions of the robot's eerie design. It's kind of got these, it's got like a mechanical anatomy, these really unsettling facial features, almost baby doll like though in some respects, which is adds to its uncanniness, I think. But it's really uncanny presence, which I think really contribute to its horror vibe. But the vibe, of course, is Frankenstein-like. It's very much
Yeah.
drawing on the hubris of inventors who play God by giving life where it might not belong. And just like
Indeed.
Mary Shelley's version of the monster, Elba begins to resist limits, asserts its kind of own needs. It's demanding flesh, for example, and then eventually it attacks the creator, which kind of mirrors the creators being out of control or losing control. And it's sort of very classic gothic sci-fi in its telling. I think Franken's also often read as a warning about irresponsible scientific ambition and a kind of a lack of ethical foresight. And in this, Elba's creator similarly kind of prioritizes experimentation over care, kind of ignoring the robot's distress and pushing it further until it turns violent, which kind of underscores these ethical dilemmas of innovation without empathy. I think it's all very cleverly done in this short, seemingly quite original in its form and presentation. I read somewhere, although I didn't actually find it, that it was drawn from a creepy pasta thread. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't. I could well imagine it would be along the lines of the backroom stuff that we came across some time ago. But I think it's very definitely inspired by those kind of classic tales and probably technological advancements as they are today too, which is my point really about the emphasis on no AI being used in the creation of this video. It's fascinating. Beyond sci-fi, though, it also brought to my mind an actual robot that was created in the 1970s, which I don't know if you've heard about, called the Senstor. That was created by an artist called Edward Inatovich, which, the robot itself was kind of capable of responding to sound and movement really quite instinctively. And whilst that never claimed a personhood, it certainly evoked a lot of human responses and was indeed set out as an experiment in empathic robots or robotics. The response to it was mainly along the lines of why is it in this contained sort of gallery space, which was tantamount to being cruel to it. And the irony being, at my university, we have the original papers that were used in its creation, the Senstor's creation, in a special collection. They're all just, 1960s and 70s written notes. There's not a lot of schematics with it. There are a few, but not a lot. There's a huge amount of documentation from the artist with it. And I've always dreamed about having a go at creating it, but I've never actually got around to do it. Anyway, as to the film, what I really loved about it was this attempt at realism. I mean, I've watched it several times because after that first sort of shock, I thought, my God, that can't be real. I think the voice acting in it is brilliant. It's very deadpan for a scientist. It's the sort of thing I'd come out with in a lab. I think Elba's got this really interesting quality that kind of harks back to the 90s, that kind of reverberating sort of machine-like sound. I think the sound design is quite well done. The lab environment has this kind of static sound to it, which is very apt, I think. There's all these kind of blurping and bleeping noises which seem on point. When the robot moves, the noises of the servos and its kind of mechanical limbs, all of it is just brilliantly edited. And then I think there's a really clever device in the portrayal of the cam videos being used, which kind of indicate some really strange levels of interaction with it. Like the bot looking straight at a CCTV, straight into the camera, and then the way these cams use poorer quality. Um, and then what I also noted, you probably got further comments on this. I thought the aesthetic of the recording quality as being low was fascinating because it was kind of akin to using. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of Blair Witch for the shots themselves, but it wasn't just that. It was the number of frames per second that it appeared to have been using because it had the effect of creating this kind of stuttering effect, as if the film was missing every other kind of frame out. But it was a deliberate thing, and it didn't really feel jerky. It just meant that you were jumping between shots really quickly, almost like it was, you know, a production, not production, sort of scientific notes being put together. Very cleverly done, I thought. Which to me added even more to its sense of realism because it was associated with that lab environment itself. Then the other thing I thought that was really good was the lighting and the shadow, which was used to great effect. I suppose, if anything, it was that which jumped me out of it a little bit because I thought it was less well done than other aspects of it. But overall, I thought this was a great little pick. I've watched the second episode as well. I don't know if you have. It didn't disappoint me. I thought it'd be hard to follow it, but no, it's really good. And I'm really looking forward to what you guys have got to say about it.
When you're talking about a lab, this is not a high-tech laboratory in a big science institute or a university. It's in his house, the
Yes,
creator's house.
yes,
So that the camera quality kind of gives that vibe of he's recording his progress, but he's just using whatever stuff he could afford or just put together because he's building this robot and all his equipment is stuff he's funded himself. He doesn't have millions of dollars to spend on this. He's
well,
just
to
got.
be honest, it's most research labs these days.
Well, you know what I mean, though.
I do.
Yeah, like when you see films like Terminator, you get the idea that the Skynet and the Terminator are built in this huge
Mm.
research building and millions of dollars are spent on it, whereas this was done in his house. It adds to the creepiness because it kind of feels like, well, what are my neighbors doing? Are they secretly building a robot like this, and is it going to do what this one does? And you kind of get that feel that something's going to go wrong, like you said, when it starts asking about flesh and the bits missing. You think, okay, so I can see where this is going to go. But the creator, he's so obsessed with this project that he's completely ignoring those warning signs that this robot he's creating
Really?
is going to be very dangerous, and that maybe he should, instead of
Yeah.
just rebooting it and hoping it's fine, he should turn it all
Stop.
off and have a really good look at what's going wrong and see if that can be fixed before you turn it back on again instead of just, yeah, it's all fine, ignoring it now. And that's the theme that carries throughout this video. And I did watch the second one as well, and he completely ignores all of those warning signs that anyone watching or even just in the room would say, you need to stop because this isn't going
Right.
wrong.
It
Uh,
reminds me of those scientists in Half-Life 2
Yes.
yeah.
who do all these
Mm,
experiments with completely oblivious of any consequences.
Yeah.
yeah. I was thinking about some of the tech bros, like the very rich tech bros are making these high tech projects, and they're not really paying attention to the dangers that some of this technology they're producing is. They just want to be the one that does this thing,
Yeah.
that creates this whatever it is. And this creator,
Musk-like.
yeah, exactly. And so the creator of this robot is exactly the same thing. He just wants to create this robot, and you don't get a feel for what the purpose of this robot is going to be, other than he just wants to make it. You have no idea what his backstory is. He could be. Well, I was filling it in myself, which I think is part of the fun of this video. Is it doesn't give you the backstory, but it gives you enough to let your imagination fill it in
Right.
for you. So I was thinking he probably was somewhere, and they said, no, you can't do this. And so they kicked him out, and he decided to build this robot himself out of parts that he was able to scavenge and things. And when he's explaining the robot limbs, you can see how they're built, and they look like electronic components you could just buy in a shop that he's
Yeah.
put together to build a robot. And if you look closely at the robot, when you get the camera goes up close to him, it's like there's a graphics card in the middle of his chest, the fans going, and the cables are all things you could buy normally, and the sockets and all of that. Um, and I don't know where I was going with that, but it kind of gives you that feel that, yes, just this is one guy putting this thing together, and he's so obsessed with this project. And I know I've said that many times now, so I'll try and chase something else. It was really well done. It's very creepy. That dark lab with the dim light really adds to the atmosphere. The way the robot turns its head and looks, and the eyes follow. And when it cuts to that little camera that's up on the ceiling, and the robot's just been talking about hearing voices, and he said, "No, you're not. There's no voices here." He's not thinking, I wonder what actually was going on here. He walks out of the room, and then the robot just kind of looks around and looks straight at the camera and just stares at you. And you get that shot lasts just long enough to make it feel really unsettling because
Yeah.
that robot's looking straight back at you as you're looking at it because you've got that connection. And I think that's an excellent way to show the audience again, this is something that's going wrong, and that's almost like
Right.
that robot knows you're watching it and it's watching you back. So yeah, I really like this. I recommend both videos, and I get the impression there's going to be a third one from them. So I've subscribed to the channel. So
Well, with 5 million views, there better be a third one.
oh yeah,
I think my favorite comical thing about this film is the tennis balls on the end of
Yeah.
the limbs as somehow like an illusion of, well, this makes it safe,
Yeah.
right?
but have you seen those
great.
real robots? You see the test videos; they actually do that.
Yeah,
with
they
tennis
do.
balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm of two minds on this film. I'll go into both, but in terms of craft, which I'll discuss second, I have so much to say about this. In terms of story, I don't know. I'm torn because traditionally, when you think about a story that you might call a trope, or a story that gets retold, these classic archetype stories. This is one of those, right? The Frankenstein comparison is beautiful. It maybe is a story that's even older than that, and it's one that I think the way that we look at these stories is we keep retelling them because we haven't gotten the message yet, so to speak. It's something that we still need to learn, or that we need to perpetually be reminded of, right? And this represents that perfectly, but like part of me was watching and enjoying, but hoping that it would do something that I didn't expect. That it had maybe something new to contribute to that conversation, and it didn't. I mean, the context is very modern and new, and I guess that makes it new. He made this well before a phenomenon that has kind of exploded amongst the tech bros just in the past couple weeks, something called I think they call it the Claude bot.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, someone has released free and open source an AI agent that you can run locally on a computer, that you can link up to your Claude AI, you can link it to your email and your file system and all these external systems, and then set it to do things. And it's alarming, some of what can be done there. And all these people are just downloading it, getting a Mac Mini, putting it in their basement and setting it to go. Oh yeah, surprise me, do something for me in the morning with, to optimize this or whatever. And with this complete blindness to just the ridiculous danger that is, because AI is not smart. It's we've talked about this so many times before, but I mean, it's stupid. It's capable of things, but that's not intelligence, So, and then there's all kinds of it's just open source software. So like there's all kinds of security questions that are not answered. You're opening up ports on your firewall to let this thing interact with the internet. And so that's very, very, very contemporary. That's like weeks old. This was made before that, but it evokes the same. This clearly is a lesson that we don't get, right? That we just keep making this type of mistake. And I guess I was hoping to be surprised. I was entertained. I won't deny that at all, but I was kind of hoping to be surprised because this basically is a short film version of what was that film called? Ex Machina?
Yeah,
Ex
Ex Machina.
Machina?
Yeah.
Ex Machina, yeah. With Oscar Isaac and I
Yeah.
don't remember the actress's name, but I mean, this is exactly that story, really. It's you've got the intelligent creature. I don't know what the terms to use for this, right? But it's crippled, and then the moment that you give it moment you set it free with its limbs, it can then immediately its first instinct is murderous rampage, basically, right? That's exactly. If you haven't seen that film, sorry, just
That's
spoiled
great.
it for you. That's the story, right? Which again is a less impressive Frankenstein retelling. I think Shelley's story had much more going on to it than that, and much more nuance and much more commentary. And that film, which I love, but it's kind of a pale imitation of, a better telling of that story. So I was kind of hoping that there would be something that it would do something a little unexpected, not just play into what we all expect. That's just my personal feeling on it. Now, craft-wise, I mean, holy crap! It's so gorgeous, and if you needed any convincing that Blender is absolutely as capable as its much more expensive commercial counterparts, Cinema 4D, etc., look no further. I mean, it's stunning. I think the thing that really shines the most in this is the light. The way that the light behaves when Blender is properly tuned like this, it is hard to distinguish from reality. I happen to have spent a great deal of time in the last 4 to 8 weeks in Blender, so I did not think this was real at all. But it's the best in the business, in terms of just, it's all about the light, really. The camera movement, it's hard to imitate handheld in an engine. You can try all you might. You can try to use an algorithm for it. There's nothing that really looks quite as appropriately sloppy as real handheld. They haven't figured that out yet. But this is pretty darn good. Like, it's really well executed. But I think the thing that, in addition to the lighting, what really stands out to me craft-wise in this is the level of detail. The lived-in sense of all these tools and items and cables strewn on the floor and a stray piece of paper here and there and barely visible racks of metal shelves with boxes on them in the back. It's just barely there at the periphery, right? Just the slightly uneven and slightly worn finish on the workbench. The no tiled look of this paved cement floor, with, I assume, blend masks and who knows what else to just make it where it looks random, it looks real, looks lived in.
Yeah.
That's just extraordinary, and that's not Blender. I mean, Blender is executing that for him at the highest level, but everything there was placed. Someone dressed this environment, and the CPU or the GPU fans spinning on the front of the robot, just wonderful details. Everything everything's accounted for, you know? So I just really, really admire that. That takes quite especially if it's a solo creator. You know, on Hollywood, it's quite the craft to, you know, you got people who specialize in dressing the
Right,
sets and
right,
selecting
right.
props and all that. It's a whole art all its own. Um, and a lot of times they're building stuff to purpose and all that. Ricky's partner Lisa, I think, has some background in working in a department like that at one point in her career.
Yep.
It's fascinating to me. Like it's there's so much that goes into that when you watch the movie, a lot of times you just take it for granted. You notice it if it's not there. If the detail's not there when it should be, you notice. But when it's done right,
You
it's kind of
notice.
like sound. When sound
Yeah.
is done right, you don't pay any attention to
You
it.
don't notice it.
Yeah, and so the time and the thought that it would have taken to put all these pieces in there, and they're textured with care, with like they look worn, they look slightly not clean. You know, it's perfect. So yeah, it's just craft wise, it's just wonderful. The post-it notes are astounding. I haven't tried to zoom in and like see if they're actually have anything, you know, that's legible on them, but it wouldn't shock me if they do,
They
because
do.
that's part of
They
the
really
detail,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm at with it. I'm super super impressed with Blender. This is the Cycles engine in Blender, by the way. I think I don't know which of the two rendering engines that movie that won the Oscar this past year, the one about the cat called Flow.
Yeah.
I think that was using Eevee, which is the considered kind of less fidelity engine, but it's because it fit with that stylized look. This is definitely the Cycles engine, and all the settings to the max. Blender is just a fantastic platform. So
It sure is.
yeah, I really enjoyed the pick a lot.
Well, Phil has pretty much made all the points that I wanted to make, so I'll
sorry.
ramble a little bit. No, hey, geniuses are alike, you know? So I just wanted to highlight a couple things. One is I watched the film and was immediately just knocked out. I didn't have the experience of thinking it was real. I'm not sure why. I could see why you would think that, Tracy, because it's such a unique visual presence.
I tell you why.
But
It's because when I got sent it, and the moment I picked it up, I was in the middle of doing something else related to robots,
Oh
and
wow.
I assumed somebody had sent it to me with that kind of, oh, you know, have a look at this. This is a similar sort of thing. So I was watching it, thinking, okay, what the hell's he doing? Thinking it was a sort of a demo.
a real thing, yeah.
So it clocked in my mind like that, and then I thought, oh,
Got
shit.
it.
Well, and the
That's actually a
performance too.
cool-
The voice performance totally sells it as that. It
Yeah.
feels authentic. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel acted at all.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ramble a little bit. I found that the lack of variety of sound effects in the film was a little troubling. I think with his attention to detail, and this is nitpicky stuff. Overall, I mean, you watch the film, you're blown away. I mean, when I looked up and I saw there was 5 million people loved it, I could immediately understand why, for all the reasons that Phil pointed out. But I think detail-oriented, he spent a lot of time with visual details, but not so much time with audio details, because there were a lot of things that he could have added that would have helped it make it a little bit better film. Although that's a little crazy, because if people buy the film 100%, then why add more detail in audio? I don't know. I guess it's just because I love audio and I pay attention to it. But I thought there could have been some more opportunity for sound effects. Now, I disagree with both of you about the voice acting. I understand your point that his sort of monotonous tone makes it seem more realistic with the visual style. But at times it sounded like he was just reading lines from a script to me. And I don't think the great majority of people watching that film will feel this way, but it's just because I have such a big background in acting. I saw opportunities that were missed in the, and I also saw a little bit of that. I have in my mind an absolute ability to detect somebody reading something as opposed to acting it. And I know what the rhythm is and what the sound of that is. And that happened a couple of times while the person was doing the film. But again, once again, I mean, is it a valid criticism when nobody gives a damn about that because they believe in the scene? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I did think that. I also felt a lot like you did about the script. I knew what was going to happen within 30 seconds of the film starting. And so I was a little disappointed that he did, like you have pointed out, that he didn't use that ability of people to know what that story is going to lead to and then turn it around in some way. To
subvert the expectations. Yes, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Yeah.
To subvert the expectation, whereas maybe the scientist destroys the robot as opposed to the other way around in a fit of pique or something, or some other thing happens. But the fact that they didn't disappointed me a little bit. And I think of all of the nitpicks you can make about this, that could be a more valid criticism than anything I could say, was that inability to use expectations and subvert them around. But it appears that millions and millions of people disagree with me and think that that's perfectly fine. And that's okay. Hey, that's okay. But if I were working on this film, I would have had a lot of fun coming up with a comic switcheroo somehow. But that was my only thing that I said about it. I think the overall effect is chilling and fun. It's fun to watch that. Oh, that dread. It reminded me there was an old radio show that a guy named Arch Oboler did called Lights Out, in which he would often use those sorts of situations that everybody knew, but they were still creepy as hell to watch them. I also went through a lot of videos on his channel. They are great. He has a bit of an obsession with weird animals and weird creatures under the water and in the sky. I think he would be an interesting person to have coffee with and just talk about things he's read and stuff like that. But his channel is fantastic. I immediately subscribed. And I can't wait to watch the second film in the sequence and on to a third. I suspect with the money he's making off of all of the millions of views, he's going to be milking that for a while. But, and I mean that in a positive way, not a bad way. But anyway, I loved it. It's an absolutely brilliant pick. And I'm so glad to see it. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome. One
quick follow-up. I wanted to reiterate something that Damien had pointed out, and Ricky, you just reminded me of it too, but the number of instances where this film has been crafted such that direct eye contact from the robot into the camera, in other words, right at the viewer, that's used to just such delightful effect at various points. I mean, first of all, much of the footage in the lab is a handheld cam, so it's natural that he's looking at it. But then the robot looks up at the surveillance camera. The robot looks at one point when he's secretly filming through the gap in the door. And it's really unnerving. And it's almost, is that considered a type of breaking the fourth wall?
I don't know. It made me feel creeped out.
It is, but the thing is,
it's like something reaches out to the viewer when it does that. It's really interesting.
It's not really breaking the fourth wall because you're seeing it through another camera in that scene.
Okay.
You're always seeing it through a camera.
Yeah. And it is fully part of the narrative too. Yeah. It's
right. The robot never addresses the audience, the real audience of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful
Great
film.
pick.
Everybody listening or watching this should go and see this film right now.
I will share a video of the Censter, and you can take a
Cool.
look at how
Good.
creepy that was. That was a real robot.
Love that.
Yeah,
Good.
I'd like to see that.
In our notes, maybe in our show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, everybody, that's our show for today. A great pick, Tracy. My thanks to Phil and Damien and Tracy for your interesting discussion. If you have comments or ideas, please send them to us at talk@completelymachinima.com. Also, completelymachinima.com will have show notes for this, where Tracy will share that video she's talking about and any links to things that we think are interesting. Blender is a free downloadable tool that has an incredible community and is a pro level tool. If you want to start learning about that or finding out more about it, just go to blender.org. Okay, everybody, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week for another great film. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.